and welcome to this week's Grumpy Sound Guy. I am your host, J.R. Everhart, the Grumpster himself. This week we're going to talk about Chinese gear, and I sometimes refer to this as junk Chinese gear. So, there's two sides to this conversation because, believe me, I get it. To the people who are really struggling financially, maybe you're just kind of a weekend warrior playing in a C band, an animal circuit band, or something like that, or whatever, and you really just don't have the budget to buy legit gear. Look, man, I'm not hating on you guys in this video. I want to preempt the whole episode with that because otherwise you'll be blowing me up in the comment section, calling me the devil because I got no respect and just expect everybody to spend, thousands upon thousands of dollars for in-ear monitors and systems and splitters and all that kind of stuff, which really I do kind of expect you to do that because you do that with every other part of your stuff. I can't tell you how many B bands I know that are traveling around with $8,000 DW drum sets and, $3,000 or $4,000 Les Pauls and all that kind of stuff. But then when you ask them to actually buy legit gear for, in-ear monitors, cabling, earbuds for in-ear monitors, split snakes, they just want to crap a cow because they think it's outrageous to spend that kind of money on that part of what they do. Look, man, y'all got to figure that out in your own budget. I ain't hating on you either way. I'm just going to speak to you from my own personal experience and the 180 shows a year that I do and all the bands that I work with inside those events. Many of those events are multiple bands, so I'm working with 4, 5, 6 bands sometimes on these day festivals and that sort of thing. We got one coming up in June where it's 4 days. So I think we got 5 or 6, 7 bands each day. So what I'm saying is I talk to a lot of bands. I see a lot of gear. I see a lot of this middle market stuff out there. I know what works. I know what doesn't work. And if you listen to what I'm telling you, you're going to spend a little bit more money than you want to. But in the long run, you're not going to have to question whether or not you're going to be able to hear yourself perform on stage or whether your gear is going to even make it through the night, because that's the downside to all of this. So let's kind of preempt of this conversation with, look, we all have Chinese gear in our rig. Most of the major manufacturers are manufacturing stuff in China. So I get the question all the time, what is the difference between Allen and Heath or a company like, Midas or Behringer or any of those kind of cats? And we could name almost every major manufacturer. What is the difference between them making stuff in China and buying their stuff with their name on it that costs 3 times as much than buying it factory direct from the Chinese manufacturer who builds these components and this stuff for these name brand companies? Well, the difference is real simple: quality control. The name brand companies have people from their organization on site at the factories making sure that quality control is in place, and they hold these guys accountable to that. When you're buying the stuff direct from the manufacturer, you may get with a manufacturer that's super honest and, only drives his car to church and to the river, when you're trying to buy a used car from him, you know what I'm saying? Like, he's one of those kind of guys that are really genuinely trying to take care of the stuff and takes pride in what they do. There are good Chinese companies out there, but the majority of the stuff that I see being flooded into the American market right now are guys that are just looking to make a quick buck. They are manufacturers that see the strength of the middle market, music world in the United States, in London, really the whole West, and they're trying to capitalize on that as much as possible. I'll give you an example. You take, websites like Wish.com, Temu, MadeInChina.com, Alibaba. All those guys are factory direct, and you got to be really careful buying from them. First of all, you can lose your rear end because you don't know who you're sending your money to. I got a buddy of mine that blew $700-800, trying to buy iPhones and iPads from what he thought was factory direct, Apple approved, because this is what the people told him. And it turned out he never got one thing for his money. He kept sending that stuff Western Union, and he lost every dime that he sent them, and all the contact information they had given him was complete bull butter. And in that situation, the dude was just out $700-800. What are you going to do? Want to be in that situation? Well, now there's been people in the United States who understand that and have become a middleman. So they're importing the stuff from China, putting their brand name on it, and then selling it as coming from America. Well, that's not necessarily exactly how that's playing out. There, I'll give you an example. Seismic Audio is one of these people. You know, they are steadily importing the stuff with their name on it. It comes to Tennessee, and then they're selling it from the Seismic Audio website or eBay, Reverb.com, you know, even Craigslist in some cases. You know, so you're not getting that quality control that, you know, a company like Soundcraft is going to put in place when they're manufacturing stuff over there, or Midas, you know, or Clark Techniques, or, you know, DBX, or any of the other major name brand companies that are manufacturing stuff in China but have quality control in place. So I just kind of wanted to tell you the difference between that, because there's a huge difference between people who have boots on the ground and are actually making quality control a priority in the manufacturing process. And then there's a lot of Chinese manufacturers who are robbing, literally stealing these American or European designs and cloning them and selling them with their names, the name brand company's name on the equipment, and shipping them to the United States as the real deal. L Acoustics is a great example of a company that is not putting up with that for a second. They seized, like, I don't even know what it was, man. It was like $150,000 worth of gear in Florida just about 6 months ago from a guy who was using a Chinese cloned L Acoustics rig. To look at the rig, there's no way you'd be able to tell that it wasn't L Acoustics. But obviously when you fire it up and you listen to the sound quality, there's a major difference. You know, there wasn't that level of quality control in place. They weren't using, you know, L Acoustics level components in their boxes. They were just putting boxes together with an L Acoustics brand on it that looked like an L Acoustics box. This guy in Florida was selling it as L Acoustics, and the other L Acoustics authorized dealers and users in Florida caught wind of it, let L Acoustics know. They came in, you know, with the federal government, raided the place, confiscated all the stuff, and then they let all the competitors that are actually real L Acoustics people go to a neutral site where they actually burned all those cloned cabinets, and they burned all that cloned gear. So you got to be super careful with that. If you follow me on Facebook, you've probably heard me and read where I have talked about a lot of fake Shure and Sennheiser wireless stuff is all over Facebook Marketplace. Listen, guys, do not buy any name brand wireless stuff from anybody but an authorized dealer right now, unless it's your buddy down the street that you were with when he bought it at Chuck Levin's. You know what I'm saying? And you know that that's the real deal stuff, because you can't look at it and tell. You can only tell when you hook it up and you listen to it. There is a difference. In some cases, it's not much of a difference. It's pretty close. But in that scenario, they are absolutely robbing. It's a criminal offense. They are robbing, and they are making money off of a brand of equipment that they do not have a trademark for, and they don't have the permission to sell. So those are all the things you got to kind of keep in your mind as you're weaving your way through this. So let's get to some of the specific gear that cause us problems. And I'm going to start with the stuff that I'm going to say you should never buy. And I'm going to end with some stuff where I'm going to say, look, if you're on a budget, I can understand why you need to use this, but just understand that it may last 10 minutes, it may last 10 years. You know, I know guys that's bought some of this junk and it's been in their rig for 10 years and they swear they've never had a problem out of it. Hey, look, even a blind squirrel can find an acorn every now and then, you know, and the Chinese are no different than that. So I'm going to start with the real colorful XLR cables that you see all over eBay. You can buy, like, I don't know, 10 of these for, you know, $12 or something. For whatever reason, they tend to be these weird, crazy colors: orange, yellow, red, all this kind of stuff. Now, there are a lot of black cables there as well. Make sure you're buying name brand cables, either Whirlwind, Mugambi. If you want middle-of-the-road budget cables, and I know some of these are manufactured in China, but they have some quality control in place. Pig Hog is one that I use. The Hosa Pro level, manufactured in China, but not a bad cable. They have some quality control in place. That stuff, I've even seen some Cable Matters, which I know is very Chinese, be okay. You know, if you're on a budget, I can understand you using that kind of stuff. But whenever you go to a listing on eBay or Reverb.com and it says next to the brand label, it says generic or unbranded, steer away from that stuff. Steer away from that stuff, because you just don't know who is, you know, making that stuff, or by what amount of copper they're actually putting in the cables, because the more copper that's in the cable, the better it conducts electricity. And a lot of these places, and you get this with, because the next one is speaker cables, like speak on to speak on, 12 gauge speaker cables. I've seen some of them have a large amount of tin and aluminum instead of copper blended in there with that, and it doesn't conduct electricity correctly, and you'll burn up an amp trying to push a bunch of power through a cable that just isn't efficient enough. You have to understand all those cables affect your own resistance and all that kind of stuff. So having quality cables is a huge part of your system sounding the way it's designed to sound. I was on a gig not long ago where they were using all those colorful cables, and the system was turning itself up and down all by itself, shutting in and out, and it's all from the cabling. And then when you try to tell somebody that who, really thought they were getting one over on the whole music scene by saving all this money with these cables, they kind of get butthurt about it. And I mean, I understand the frustration, none of us have the ability to just throw money away, so when we find a deal like that, we all want to take advantage of it. I understand where you are. I get it. That's why I make these kind of videos, so that you can understand, don't waste your time. If you spend 30% more, it'll save you 100% 2 years from now, or a year from now in some cases, when you got to replace all the stuff. And you realize this was junk cabling. The money I spent on this was trash. I just might as well took the money and lit it in a campfire and burned it up, because I didn't get anything out of it. The ROI did not equal what I needed it to equal, because it makes me look dumb when my system shuts down in the middle of the show. Or when one side, I know a guy that has a house system right now that, didn't put Whirlwinds. I told him to put Whirlwind cables to his active tops. He has a couple line array boxes hanging. He used some of these eBay cables, and for the last 6-8 months, I got bands steadily contacting me, as I mix in that room all the time, saying, hey, the right channel's still cutting in and out in there. And I'm like, I told the guy what the problem was and what he needed to do. He don't want to go spend, $200 or $250 on a couple quality 50-foot Whirlwind XLRs to get from his mixer to his active tops. I can't make you people do the right thing. I can't do it. I can only do so much. All I can do is implant wisdom in you. You can do with it whatever you want from that point forward. If you listen, great. If you don't, that's entirely up to you. So, colorful eBay cables. We talked about the cheap speaker cables. Pyle microphones. I don't know where in the world this has come from. Pyle used to be a car audio thing, and even when they were made in America, they weren't like at the top of the food chain, even with car audio. Well, they sold their name to a Chinese conglomerate, and they have been putting out some of the most horrible audio gear, car audio, pro audio. Now they're making like little DJ rigs and karaoke rigs and all this stuff. And now they're making some form of a microphone. I had a sound engineer buddy of mine today leave a comment in one of my Facebook reels talking about this very thing, about how they had somebody show up and wanted to use their own Pyle microphones. Really, dude? I mean, back in the day, it was the Radio Shack gear that we would, joke about, polluting the industry because it was cheap American-made stuff. It just wasn't made of any kind of quality, so they would always cause us issues at gigs. This Pyle junk is the same way. Don't buy anything that has the name Pyle on it, and you'll be okay. Trust me. Moving right along, Seismic Audio is my next beef. Look, and if you're Seismic Audio watching me, look, I'll gladly review your gear. I'll gladly tear it apart, do videos on it, and, you can prove me wrong. But I've had some of your, especially, I'm going to talk specifically about snake splitters. I see these things all the time, because you can buy a 16 channel for, I don't know, $150 or $200. You can buy a 32 channel for under $300. That's crazy, insane cheap. And you say, well, JR, I've had one that's been working for 10 years. Well, hey, Sparky, I'm happy for you, man. I'm glad that you worked it out. I can swing a dead cat and hit a band that's went through 1 or 2 seismic audio splitters, channel stopping, and the wire are such a small gauge inside of it, you can't even repair the stuff. I know one guy that tore all the XLRs out and put Nutrix XLRs in it, and it still didn't hold up because it's the wiring itself. Again, it's not super great copper core stuff. It's mostly copper. it will technically work. I mean, passive splitters have their own issues as they are. When you cheese out on the gauge of wiring that you're putting into that stuff, you're just asking for trouble, man. You just really are. And I hate to see guys throw, bad money after good. One band was a 16 channel, level band, and they bought a 32 channel. They're like, hey, we're just going to, start switching out channels as they start going down, because their last seismic audio splitter was a 16 channel, and they lost 3 channels in it within the first 12 months. And I could tell you that story over and over and over and over again. Look, if you want to buy a good quality splitter without like killing yourself financially, I mean, it's not going to be $300. Look into CBI splitters. I think they're great. I think they're good quality. Whirlwind, if you can afford it, man, Whirlwind's always where it's at. And I'm telling you, if you look on eBay and Reverb.com, you can find deals. I just bought a 24 channel Whirlwind splitter. Looks like it's got a 50-foot tail and about a 15-foot tail. Maybe it's a 30 and a 15. Either way, I had to put one XLR on one of the fan ends. That was it. It was the only thing wrong with it. Bought it used for $800. And that thing new is probably $2,800. So the deals are out there. You just got to be in the right place at the right time. I'm always on Facebook. I'm always, Marketplace. I'm always on YouTube or eBay and Reverb.com. I will sometimes even nose around on Craigslist, although Craigslist is kind of blowed up with spammers these days. So listen, guys, if somebody contacts you on Craigslist and says they're going to sell you an enclosed trailer for, $1,000, it's typically $6,000, you're getting sent to the cleaners, man. And I know a buddy of mine that lost money that way, and another buddy of mine that almost lost his money that way. And he happened to call me and tell me about this great deal he just found. And I connected him with PayPal, and sure enough, it was a scam. The PayPal invoice that they had emailed to him was not a PayPal invoice. It did not correlate with anything that was connected to PayPal. So he was ready to pull the trigger. He was ready to put bank numbers, in the email and send it back. And we were able to save his rear end on that. So that's Craigslist. So I don't go to Craigslist very often. But this seismic audio stuff, man, I hate to be so negative about this stuff, but when you stand there and you watch the equipment fail right in front of you, time and time and time and time again, you form an opinion about this, and this is the opinion that I have. It's coming from direct experience and from the feedback that I've gotten from other guys in the industry, both on stage and behind the mixer. The Bible says out of the mouth of 2 to 3 witnesses, all things are confirmed. So when you're getting multiple sources telling you the same thing, it's the truth. I hate to be so negative toward a company based out of Tennessee, but man, for all intents and purposes, it just looks like they're importing Chinese stuff with their name on it and then shipping it right out the door. Their speakers weigh nothing. Everybody thinks that's the greatest thing in the world. And man, NASA must have engineered this. No, it's because the components they put in them are junk. Look, I know some really cool high-end gear that doesn't weigh anything either, but they cost about $3,000 or $4,000 a box. You're not getting it for the $299 per box for an active 15 and a horn that you're getting from Seismic Audio. I can promise you it's not the same quality. So enough said about that. Now we're kind of like moving into the stuff that I can almost live with. I know guys using this gear. I know guys that have had some luck with this gear. And I know guys that have adjusted their expectations of this gear and been very happy. Look, if you go into any of this stuff saying, hey, I'm going to buy a set of, KZ earbuds for $50 on Amazon, and they sound as good as, $1,200 Ultimate ears or, JLs or JHs or, Alien ears or any of the other big, in-ear monitor, manufacturers, you're just making yourself look like an idiot. And I see these guys talking on Cover Band Central, forum on Facebook all the time. I don't even get in those conversations anymore because these guys are absolutely convinced that they have beat the system by buying this low-level gear that they claim sound as good as name brand legit gear. And it doesn't, okay? But if you're okay with that and you're okay with the stuff sounding okay, hey man, I'm not mad at you. I'm not hating on you. I'm not trying to keep you from getting the most bang for your buck. If you're okay with that quality of gear and that level of gear, the way it sounds and the life expectancy that's might last 10 minutes, might last 10 years kind of thing, I'm not mad at you. Don't get mad at me. You go ahead and you do you, boo. You do whatever it is you feel like you need to do to feel like that you're getting what you need to do your gigs from week to week. X5 is a wireless in-ear setup where you kind of plug a little dongle into an XLR. If you use it right in front of you, like I know a bass player buddy of mine that uses this, and he uses it right in front of him. He's got the belt pack, it's wireless on his belt. He's literally 3 or 4 feet away from it, and then got some really good earbuds. He's had pretty good luck with it. I would never purchase it. It's not something I would technically buy. I'm a drummer, so I don't have to be wireless. I really recommend the Behringer P1 and P2 setup a lot, or I think it's Rolls that makes a little in-ear preamp. It's actually got a hotter preamp in it than the Behringer stuff. So if you need a little more preamp, a little more volume in your ears, then, go toward the Rolls stuff. But, I know a bunch of guys, a bunch of drummers, using that Behringer P1 and P2 setup. One's mono, one's stereo. And they're perfectly happy with it, but they got really good earbuds. That's a hardwired connection now, and you're not losing a bunch of low-end frequency that way. You know what I mean? Where with wireless stuff, if wireless stuff isn't correct, you lose a lot of frequencies, especially low-end and high-end. Well, if you're a keyboard player, guitar player, or a singer, that may not even apply to you because you don't need a bunch of bottom end and you don't need a bunch of super high-end. So it may work for you. Again, you do you, boo. But if you're a bass player or a drummer or a keyboard player who does a lot of left-handed stuff, maybe you're kicking bass from the keys and you need a system that can reproduce that low end, either go hardwired with like some of that Behringer stuff or Roll stuff, or actually buy a legit Shure or Sennheiser, in-ear monitor system. Yes, it's going to cost you $600 to $1,000, $1,200, depending on what level you buy, but you're going to be way, way happier with it. And then finally, what really drives home the in-ear, ball is the buds. And KZ buds came out, I don't even know, it's probably been 10 years ago now, just absolutely swept the nation. Everybody was losing their mind. You can get these. They claimed that they were, I don't even know what it was originally. It was like 5 or 6 drivers per ear. I still to this day think there was only one big driver in there on those original ones. Now they're selling them up to like 8 or 10 drivers per ear. Who even knows if there's that many drivers in them? I have 3 pair of them myself. From each price point, they have 3 different price points just to see what they sounded like. And even the top of the line ones that I think said it had 8 drivers per ear or something, it was okay. It didn't knock my socks off. I have a pair of Sony Bluetooth earbuds that I use when I mow the yard and work around the house and stuff that smoke them, but they were also $400. You get what you pay for, ladies and gentlemen, and if you're going to buy these KZ buds and you're not okay with it just being okay, well then don't be mad when, they break. They're throwaways, man. They're disposables. It's like the old Yugo car, you'd run the thing for 100,000 miles and throw it away. It was like, these are the same way. You're going to use them and they're cool until they're not cool anymore. And then you just go buy another pair for $50. Under those precepts framed that way, you know what? It's not the end of the world. It's okay. If that's what gets you into in-ear monitors and you can live with that, cool. Here's my concern. My concern is I know a lot of guys that are old school, stuck and addicted to wedges. They don't want to go to ears, and what they say is the same statement every one of them say. I don't like the way my guitar, my bass, whatever, fill in the blank, drums, keyboard, I don't like how they sound in those little buds you put in your ears. Well, if you're trying to convince that person to go to in-ear monitors and the first buds he uses are these KZs, it may just reinforce especially if he's a low-end guy like a bass player or a drummer, it may just reinforce his fears about how he doesn't like this technology. To where if you put him on a legit Sennheiser or Shure in-ear system and then get him even a middle of the road Alien ears or Ultimate ears or something like that costs $400 or $500, he's probably going to walk away from that saying, you know what, I think I can live with this. Some of those guys though, because here's the other side of the argument, some of those guys though, look at that situation and they're like, I'm okay with it just being okay. I want to be in in-ears that bad because I'm tired of carrying around a big rig. I want to go direct into the system. I just need some reference point and I'm happy. You do you, boo. Go rock it out, man. There's nothing wrong with that. You go and do what you need to do with that, and I'm not mad at you, but don't sit on these forums and don't come at me and be like, oh, well, these are as good as Ultimate ears or these are as good, whatever, fill in the blank, No, dude, they're really not. You know, they're $50, $60, $100 throwaway buds. Again, if you adjust your expectations to that, it's not the end of the world. It's all in what you choose to live with as a musician. If you're okay with living with gear that may or may not work from gig to gig, rock it out. Don't you dare go to your sound guy, though, and give him a hard time because something's not working in your rig because you got a bunch of Chinese gear in there that had no quality control attached to it. That's something you got to figure out on your end of it. That's my only beef about this, and I'll leave you guys with that. Hey, look, I appreciate you guys. I love you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in this week. Please subscribe to this. I mean, if you like what a guy's doing here and you enjoy this content, I mean, it's free. Why wouldn't you do that? Just hit that subscription button, hit the notification bell so you know when I put up a new video or a short or something like that. Share this video with people that you think can benefit from this information. And God bless you. I'll see you next week.